And two. All right, Andre, thank you for your time. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So let's kick it off. Can you introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to join the Army?
So my name is Andre Harmon Jr. I decided to join the Army because I left high school. I went to college for a couple months, decided that I was wasting my time at the college because I wasn't getting proper education. A sergeant had came up to me and told me, why don't you go to the military? At first I said no. It took me about 3 days and I said, you know what, he was right, let's go. So then I went back home and I said, hey, Uncle Sam, can I get inside? He said, 2 weeks, you'll be in. And I said, all right, let's go. And ever since then, so that's why I joined the military.
So you decided to become a combat engineer. Can you tell us why you decided that specific MOS?
So I chose 12 Bravo because I told the recruiter I wanted a combat job. He told me the list of combat jobs. I didn't want to sit at the desk in the Army. I said I actually want to do some actual soldier work. He said combat engineer is probably the best one you could have, that or infantry. So he said, he didn't tell me exactly what I'd be doing as a combat engineer. He just gave me the brief breakdown and I was like, all right, fine, I'll take it. Then, then I really got to see what combat engineers got to do. So even if I really got to see, I still didn't, leave. I stayed with it. So, yeah.
Okay. And so you would have gone through basic training, you would have gone through what we call AIT, the school where you learn how to be a combat engineer. And then where were you assigned? Where was your duty station?
Fort Lewis, JBLM, North Fort.
Yeah. Okay. What unit were you attached to at that point in time?
Well, when I first got here, I got to the 570 second unit, second platoon. So, yeah, I was part of the what they call Hellhounds, the 570 Hellhounds. Yeah.
Okay. And so we all deployed in July, but what do you recall about the time when you got orders to deploy? What was going through your head at that point?
A little bit of nervousness, excitement. I was ready for it. I didn't want to say I went to the Army and didn't do anything. So I was ready for the deployment. I told my father that I was going to do this, and as soon as they said you're ready to go, I said let's go. I honestly I wanted to make sure that I was going to be the gunner. I didn't want to sit inside the truck. I wanted to be the actual gunner. So I told my Sergeant Aarons that I know how to proficiently take away and put together and take away all the weapons with my eyes closed. So I proved it to him, and that's why he made me the gunner.
How old are you at this point in time?
I'm 32 right now.
Okay, so yeah. 32 now. How old were you when you deployed? Because this was 11 years ago.
I was 22 when I deployed. No, I take that back. I was 21. I was 22 by the time I came back. I was 19 when I joined. So yeah, I was young. I was young, just still trying to learn. I was, in that still learning process. So by the time I came back, I was definitely a different person.
Okay, I would normally reserve a question like this for later, but you and I talked before this, and there's a lot I know, and your story is really complex. So, and it will take us in a different direction. So I want to ask just about your age. You're 19 when you get in. You're very young. How do you think your age might have impacted how you process the deployment and everything that occurred? Do you reflect on that being really intense for someone your age, or do you feel like you were ready for what happened?
Well, for me personally, no, because mentally I was already ready for it because my father, he was an airman.
Mm.
He was a police in the Air Force, and then he was a Warrensville officer of police. So I was already familiar with the military, culture and stuff like that. And like growing up from where I was in Cleveland, Ohio, I was already, prepared mentally for, somebody attacks you. If, make sure you, stay focused, don't overreact, you just keep your mind focused on, on your team and make sure you stay with your team and stuff like that. So mentally, I was already prepared for it. I wasn't scared of nothing.
Okay. Can you kind of bring us to July or maybe June of 2011 and kind of walk us from that point forward? What do you remember about, right before you are about to deploy? What kind of things did you have to get ready for? What kind of things did you do? And then what do you recall about that early phase of arriving in theater?
Well, we had to do a lot of training. We had to do a lot of training in California. And honestly, I'll tell you this. So now you said you wanted me to talk about the training before, what happened before I got to Afghanistan, correct?
Yeah, just right before. Yeah. And
Okay.
if it takes us back a little bit more, just what are the things you had to do to prepare to go?
An actual very dramatic thing happened to me that actually is a part of my my traumatic brain injury is so during training in California when we do our I forget what it's called. Cosmos said it, but it's basically we do our RTA training. I think it's called our RTC training, route clearance training.
Are you thinking NTC?
Yeah,
National
yeah,
Training Center? Okay.
yeah. So basically, we do that, and we go up and down the routes to just to make sure, stuff like that. So, we was doing that one day, and uh, it was a dark night during the training, and I was along the mountain ridge, and the actual C4 had went off, and it had hit me in the face. And yeah, and at this time, I was wearing glasses. So the explosion happened so bad that my vision got worse. And I told the first sergeant at the time, I forgot his name. He was a tall, skinny guy. I forgot his name. But I said, hey, first sergeant, I know we just got done with training and all that, but I can't see. I can't find my glasses and stuff like that. And I went straight to to the medics, and they was like, well, yeah, your vision has got worse since we last checked it. So therefore they got me a PRK vision. And I don't know if you remember him, but his name was Specialist Oreo. You remember, or yeah. So he told me about it. And when I got my eye surgery done, that's when they gave me 20/20 vision. And so from there, uh, I suffered that explosion, but then I said, I'm gonna go and keep on, stay in the Army. And then, that's when I went to Sergeant Aaron's, and I told him I want to be a gunner because I can see further. And my range with a rifle became actually better. So that IED to the face actually kind of helped, but it hurt it. So yeah. I'm just letting people know. I'm like, hey, I took an IED to the face, but I can see better now. So,
That's resiliency, right?
Yeah.
So we're at this point in this conversation, you're not in the hooligan company, you're in the same battalion, 14th Engineer
Right.
Battalion. So let's jump up into going into theater. Kind of share with us that story of how you ended up, attached to the 22nd and
Okay.
where you started. Tell us a bit about, like, if you remember the name of the base you were originally at before Pasab, and then how you kind of came to Pasab.
So I don't remember the base that we originally became to because we stayed at Fa Pasab for majority of our time because of what 22nd was going through. I do remember it was in Kandahar though. But I remember when we first got there, before we got to the 22nd, everything was pretty much chill. Like we got to Afghanistan, nothing was happening. Nobody was taking no IDs. Nobody was getting shot at. I was, playing music, and I honestly, so we weren't living in tents because of how windy and how hot it was. So some of the soldiers were staying in connexes, which kind of was bad because if you get hit with an ID, the connex can literally hurt you still. So, but we were living in connexes and stuff like that for a couple months before we got to the 22nd, and it was good. For a while, it was kind of boring, which was nice. I like to go on the boring route. You ain't got to worry about too much stress. And then as soon as we got to the 22nd, that's when, shit started happening, shit started popping off, rounds start hitting, and, I even told, he was a specialist at the time, but he was a sergeant by the time I left, Sergeant Hood. We were in the marijuana fields, and just hearing bullets go past our heads sound like bees, sound, and then it's just crazy. So, before we got to the 22nd, we was living cool. It was nice, but after that, it was just hell on earth. It was hell.
Do you know why your platoon was brought over to the 22nd?
We were you said it in the last video. We were your, how do you say this? The quick reaction force.
Okay.
Yeah. So like basically, like we heard that the 22nd was losing a lot of vehicles, a lot of soldiers was getting hurt. We heard when Rear had lost his finger and Cosmin had took the shrapnel to his body, that's when they were like, yeah, y'all need to go over there right now. So they called us the Hellhounds Hooligans, so that's what they was calling us, the Hellhound Hooligans, and we was over there with y'all, helping y'all out and, stuff like that. And, but yeah, that's, and honestly, you know what? I don't regret it because it was fun, being with, I say family, everybody else would say soldiers, but in the end, it felt like family,
Okay. Tell us a bit about your story at this point. What were some of your experiences once you arrived at Basab? You talked a bit about the marijuana fields, but just share, if you don't mind, a bit more detail and context of what your experiences were like.
All right, well, so very fucking stressful. I would literally hear those A-10 rocket jet rockets every night. That shit literally kept me the fuck up. Sorry for cussing so much, but I was literally cussing, getting up, kicking rocks, walking with my rifle, walking around the whole fob, hearing that, because I know the Afghanis, they were bombing us, but those jets were going off every night, and it literally kept me up. I literally couldn't sleep. And then you go on a 12-hour mission right after that, it was horrible. I'll tell you about this one experience. So when we got to Pasab, I don't know if you remember this, but we had to share the urinals with the A&As. Mm-hmm. And they had their urinals on one side and we had our urinals on one side. But the A&As don't know is that we keep ours very, very clean. They don't. And they shit a different way than we do. You know this, how far you're laughing. They shit like dogs. We shit like humans. One day, one of those Afghanis came over to the urinal. He took a shit like a dog on our urinal. And I was so mad. I literally grabbed my rifle, and Sergeant Coburn had to stop me from charging my rifle and putting it in that Afghani's mouth. I don't know which one, but I'm like, whatever one of y'all shitting in the urinals is literally pissing me off. Because I literally had boo-boo on my butt when I sat down. You're laughing,
I
but
can't
I
help it,
literally
man.
had boo-boo on my butt on those ANAs. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, why are they in our post? You know? And it was just it was really irritating living with the ANAs, and even Cosman would tell you, they would be near you and they would say their language, but it felt like they were planning something behind you, and you didn't trust that. Like it was even sometimes. I'll tell you this one time. I'm not really proud of it, but I'll say it now that I can't get in trouble for it. So I was in Afghanistan, and I see one of the ANA guys walking up to our trucks, and I tell the medics, "Hey, give me your pistol, but take out the clip. Make sure there ain't no bullet in it." So I see the ANA guy he's walking up to the truck, and I yell like, "Hey, motherfucker, get away from the goddamn truck!" He's like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I'm like, "Get the fuck away from the truck," because they're not supposed to be close to the trucks because they could be having things in their hands, and you know how their children get when they get explosives. But yeah, it was we literally had to be too much for them because of how they acted. They didn't care about their lives. They would suicide themselves right next to us, and they didn't care if they killed themselves with us. So you know, just being around them, it was always nerve wracking. There was one time I'll tell you about this. One time I went on mission with I don't remember the date or the time, but I remember I went on the route, uh, and the first truck, it was the Husky that got blown up, and we were there for a while. And so uh, while we were sitting there, I'm looking around, scouting the area, making sure that nothing's happening. So everybody got to do our 360s and stuff like that. And I want to say like about at least 30 minutes into our patrol, just sitting there, I'm looking to the right, and I look down. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, it looked like little bombs going off on the floor. And I look at Sergeant Aarons, and he's on the radio talking to control. I'm like, Sergeant Aarons, what the hell is those bombs going off on the floor? He's like, those aren't bombs, we're being fucking shot at. I'm like, oh shit. I literally set off like 200 rounds of 50 cal down the range. And literally like, man, it was after I seen those, bullets hitting the dust, and next thing you know, I heard the rockets coming from like the left, and even the other guys, they said they heard it sounded like, you know how like when hail comes down and hits your car, it makes the loud sounds.
Sure.
That's what it sounded like when those bullets was hitting the RGs. So it was literally like that for a while, and then, oh man, talking this shit feels a little bit different, but man, I was going through that shit for a while, and I want to say I at least shot off 200 rounds before Watkins and Dabney showed up. And when they showed up, man, I was happy as fuck. I'm like, oh God. Cause they stopped shooting and the rockets stopped going off. I'm like, let's go home, because I don't want to be out here no more. I'm tired of shooting. My hands is the 50 cal is red as hell. I don't want to be out here no more, man. So it's a lot of that shit, like that event, I can't get out of my head. And that was a scary day. Like literally, I can't get that day out of my head. Now, I didn't get a cab for it because I came home like really early but I don't even need a cab, man. That shit stuck in my head forever. I ain't gonna get that day out of my head, you know? Like literally, Watkins, I remember Watkins showed up in the gunner and Dabney showed up in the gunner's hatch. And I was like, man, I'm so glad to see y'all black motherfuckers. Cause without y'all, them Afghanis would have kept shooting at us and them rockets would have kept going off. And I'm like, man, you know, so it was, you know, some experiences was crazy, you know, just some I try to forget and shit like that, you know. But I honestly say that being part of the 22nd and helping the 22nd, it was an honor to do that because, you know, being part of the Army, I was definitely honored to help, you know, anybody or, you know, be a soldier of that gratitude, you know. Even if I didn't get my rewards, I don't care. I don't need them, you know. Soldiers know what soldiers do, you know. Yeah, I got to smoke a little bit. That shit hurt.
Sure. You know, and one, I appreciate you being able to open up and share that and knowing, you know, this is a recorded video and everybody's seen you in that moment. It took a lot of guts to go there, and I appreciate that. You know, one thing that's kind of interesting, when you first came into the Army, you were looking specifically for a combat MOS, and then you got that and you got the combat experience. So what are your thoughts reflecting back is, you know, how do you interpret your deployment through that lens? Did it meet your expectations? If you could go back, would you do it again? Is it a source of pride? Is it a source of guilt? Like, what does it mean to you?
It's honorable to me because I want to say I learned a lot. I went there as a boy, came back definitely as a man. I would definitely tell you that. Ain't no boy coming back from Afghanistan like that. So I definitely came back as a man. I had to definitely make sure, you know, my mind was straight because I knew how I was feeling and how I was mentally. So you know, coming back. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna close this. I got these kids yelling. What was the other question you asked?
Just how you interpreted, it was kind of just a long question, just how you interpreted that deployment, you know, wanting to be in the combat MOS and deploying.
Yeah.
And some people are, you know, they don't talk about it a lot, right? And part of that is they don't want to unbox all these emotions, but some people feel guilty.
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, I don't know where you fall.
Well, and the reason I talk about my deployment is because I think it actually helps me mentally, you know, and they say, you know, and people will say this in America, Black men don't talk about their problems, but I do. And, you know, I don't want to even say the Army was my problem because I chose to stay in. I even re-enlisted, you know what I'm saying? Like I even asked to go back to Afghanistan and they told me no because my disability was too high, you know? So even though I knew Afghanistan was, you know, a hard place to deal with, I chose to do it because it's something I did want to experience. It's something I did thought that I could handle, and I knew I could handle it, and I proved to myself I could handle it. Even though they did send me home, I didn't ask to go home. You know, I think that any soldier that goes to Afghanistan and comes back, even if you aren't stable, to me you're honorable because going to war and not dodging it, you know, knowing that some people do, is a very honorable thing. You know, like some people can literally be like, oh no, I don't want to go over there because I think I'm gonna get hurt, knowing that they probably not gonna get hurt. Their friends could probably get hurt, you know? And that's what happened to me. You know, I'm thinking, oh, I can go over there and lose a leg, not knowing that my sergeant lost both of his legs and his arm, you know, and it's still affecting me. You know, even to this day, when I think of Sergeant P, I was like, Sergeant Pavlitis, You know what I'm saying? You literally, like, it was one time, I'm not gonna forget this shit, man. It was 11 years ago. We were getting ready to load up, and I was tired as shit, man. And Sergeant P came over to me. He was like, Harmon, I hear you playing that Waka Flocka music. Waka Flocka is the music from the place that he grew up in Georgia. So he knew who Waka Flocka was. And so I was playing it, you know what I'm saying, on my speakers while I was loading up. And I was like, Riverdale. And Sergeant P was like, well, how you know about Riverdale? And I was like, I'll play this song, Riverdale. And, you know, ever since then, you know, me and Sergeant P just been cool, talking and every, you know, and then, damn, man, just Sergeant P. And you know what is, it's crazy because, like, I wish I was there. And then, you know, when I talked to so one of my homies that was literally right next to Sergeant P when he literally lost his life, his name is Sergeant, his name is Specialist Tad. Tad, let me make sure I say his name right. Brownstill? Make sure. But he was literally right next to him when he lost his life in that truck. But you know, it was just hard, you know, and we all literally was crying and shit, you know, trying not to, you know, even as soldiers, you try not to cry. Let me see, what was his name? I can't find him. For Brown Steel or something like that. That was his name, but yeah, I'm thinking about him right now. Got me kind of mental. Sorry about this.
You're good.
Yeah, but it's you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything because I did love the Army. You know, I still talk about Army stuff. I still watch Army movies. You know, even some of my cousins, you know, they jumped up for the Army. I tell them, hey, do this, do this, do this, do that, do that, do that. When you're in the Army, after you get out the Army, do this, do this, do that. So make sure they got full taken advantage of. You know, if honestly, if I didn't have this disability, I'd still be in. You know, but yeah, I got hurt. Obviously, God was like, you shouldn't be in no more. So.
Can we talk about that a bit? Because we've kind
Let's
of
go.
alluded around some of that stuff. Like, tell us, you know, people out there don't know you and they don't know you have a traumatic brain injury and you've been diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that? And, you know, you shared with me, I'd encourage you share with everybody else what you remember about, you know, your last days at the Saab.
Yeah, well, my last, you want to talk about my last day there, like how it happened and all that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to know, if you don't mind, start with, you know, what do you recall about, you know,
My
getting
final
the
days there.
TBI? Well, let's start with the traumatic brain injury. What can you tell us about that?
So my traumatic brain injury happened from we were doing the route clearance training in California, and long story but short, we were on a route. It was dark. I was on the side of the road, and an IED had went off to my right side, and it had took out my vision. I couldn't see. Uh, I told my first sergeant that my vision had got way worse. I really couldn't breathe. Everything was like really fucking up. Like it really felt horrible. He told me go down to the medics, report it. The medic said, yeah, your vision has got worse since we last seen you. That's when I went to the doctors. They gave me what they call PRK surgery. One of the specialists, his name was Oreo, he advised me about that. sorry that he passed away. He was a good guy too, but Oreo gave me he gave me the advice about PRK. I did that, and when I got that, they fixed my vision 2020, so I don't need glasses anymore.
So we already talked about that. I just want to clarify then. And so in that same event, you got a traumatic brain injury before you deployed?
Yeah, I got blown up. Yeah, I got blown up before I went to Afghanistan, then got blown up in Afghanistan.
Okay. Okay. And then what do you remember? Well, that might give a little context to you're not even sure what happened. So what do you remember about when you had to leave theater?
Yeah. So my last, I want to say last events that I remember is that I wasn't on really patrol those weeks because it was really hot, and I think it was like I think they said if it's like above 130, you can't go on patrol or something like that because it's unsafe. And so we were staying in the fob and we were doing PT. And what I remember is we were doing PT. I was in a PT outfit and I was running around. And all I remember is this, I- um, I was running around with the platoon, and next thing you know, I woke up and I was in the hospital and lay next to another soldier. And I had a little mask over my face, and a nurse told me, they was like, "Harmon, you going home?" And I was like, "For real?" They was like, "Yeah, you going home in a little bit." And I was like, "Shit, I ain't gonna argue with it." I was like, "Oh, all right." And then, I went back to the fob, and they told me, yeah, I got some, brain damage from, what had been happening to us all over. Everybody had, been hit by at least one bomb. Even if it was a little bit of bomb, everybody had got hit. So they were like, "Yeah, Harmon, you going home? Your brain damage." Apparently, they had did a brain scan of me while I was asleep. They told me that I was going home. But yeah, when I remember when I had grabbed my bags and had my rifle and I was on that chopper and I seen that dirt. And I was like, I ain't never got to see this shit again, man. That was one of the best days of my life.
I bet.
Getting on that chopper, and I ain't never had to see 5 again, man. That was, man, it was crazy because, man, my PTSD was crazy. It was, I don't even want to say my PTSD is from the firefights. I want to say, honestly, my PTSD is from kind of us defending ourselves, It's like us defending ourselves was very traumatic, because I don't give credit to the Afghanis for them attacking, because I don't think them attacking us was very good. But the way we had to defend ourselves was very traumatic because we would take a bomb, then we have to, cover ourselves to make sure nobody else would get hurt, to make sure no other Afghanis could see that shit. And then, those A-10, jets, those shits was loud. And I would hear those at night. That would keep me up. It sounded like a fucking loud ass vacuum cleaner. So I hate the sounds. You're laughing. I hate the sound of vacuum cleaners. I told my VA this. I like, I hate that sound. Okay. It literally sounds like I got they killing the Afghans, but that shit is loud. It's too much. I can't take it. And I even remember patrols with some of the British guys and some of the French guys, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't know how y'all do this so much," because their deployments weren't as long as ours. And they were like, "Yeah, I don't know how y'all Americans do this shit for so long." I'm like, "We got no choice,
Okay, so what can you tell us about what was life like coming back from all of that?
Well, I'll tell you this. So I want to say like my first week, very traumatic. I couldn't get that place out of my head. I I think I even embarrassed myself one time on base. I think Herrera seen me do this, but I was like still acting like I was shooting at Afghanis, like in the paint, like on base. And I was like, Andre, stop doing that shit. I'm like, my bad. It's kind of still in my head, you know. I'm a gunner, so you know. So when I hear that shit, I'm gonna act like you know I'm gunning. And they even told me to stop. I just had to get it out of my head. But for a while, it took me a while to get that out my out my head. I literally had to throw my uniforms away to like get the memory out of my head. I was recording a lot of our routes out there on our phone, on my phone. I had to throw out the videos because I kept looking at the videos on my phone. Just it wasn't even really just anything on the videos. It was just me going on the long routes and just seeing marijuana fields. I literally had to delete that stuff to get that memory out of my head. You know, but yeah, the I was talking to other veterans. They're like, "Yeah, man, it's gonna take you a while to get those memories out of your head, but you know, you just gotta delete, you know, pictures and certain stuff like that just to slowly get that stuff out of your head." And honestly, that's why I say, you know, at the age I am, you know, I kind of, you know, stuff that was happening to me there is, you know, kind of unfamiliar now until you like other veterans bring it up, like you know, I remember Route Chilliwack now, Route Summit. You know, we was getting hurt on that route a lot. Uh, you know, I remember a couple of the other guys on 22nd just talking to Cosman. You know, that I never even got to meet. You know, I just heard about them getting hurt, and that's why we came over. That's why the 570s came over to the 22nd at Fal Pasab. Uh, but I want to say since I got back, uh, I kind of calmed down my PTSD. Uh, I don't drink at all. I stopped drinking I want to say I stopped drinking hard liquor when I was 27. By the time I was 27, the doctors told me, the doctor at the VA, they told me, Mr. Harmon, if you keep drinking these Long Island iced teas while you're having these seizures, you're going to be with Sergeant Pulveritis in the grave. I was like, all right, I'll chill out. So they was like, yeah, you need to, you need to stop. I said, okay, fine. So I don't drink alcohol. I drink mainly just water and lemonade. Uh, I do smoke weed. It helps me calm me down. It calms my uh, anxiety because I still have like bad anxiety from Afghan still sometimes. I don't know, you know, why, but sometimes I have like these dreams of like I'm being surrounded by fire. It just sucks, you know, and you know, and even if you know, just from the one serious explosion I had, uh like the most dramatic one I had wasn't even in Afghanistan. You know, it was here in training, you know, and when I have my brain damage, my seizures, it literally feels like a bomb has hit me, you know. And by the time I get up, it literally feels like I'm over in Afghanistan trying to get the fuck up and find soldiers, and you know, this is just like, hey, you home now, be calm, you know. When you know when everything's get up, you call the VA, say I gotta go to the VA. You know, is and I ain't gonna lie, it's hard because I live here by myself. I don't have kids or a wife or nothing like that. My mom and dad, they both gone. My dad, he was a veteran, so he was taking me back and forth to the VA when I couldn't do it. But you know, God bless his soul, and so that's why I'm literally working out here as hard as I can. So uh, you know, I do the best I can with what I have. Um, you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't trade the Army for anything. I wouldn't go to any other military service. I love being a sapper. Every time I work out, I say sappers lead the way, even though I got hurt like a motherfucker. I got blown up probably 3 damn times, but I still say sappers lead the way. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't take it any other way. So I love it, you know.
So I just want to give this time to just to give you the floor and say anything you'd like to say, maybe we haven't talked about already, or yeah, let me start with that. Is there anything you'd like to share with us that hasn't that wasn't brought up throughout the time of this interview?
Well, I just talk about how, you know, I recovered mainly emotionally from Afghanistan, and I think a lot of soldiers, I won't even say soldiers, I think a lot of veterans, you know, Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, whatever, if, you know, talk about, you know, what you've gone through, because that helps. And even though I don't go to therapy, I talk to people about what I go through. And that still helps me, because it, you know, it's kind of venting, but I don't do it in an angry way. You know what I'm saying? So some people be like, oh, you know, veterans would be screaming and yelling and they be acting crazy and all that. Well, it like this. I don't drink alcohol. You know, I try to keep this calm, cool, collected, you know, aspect about myself now that I'm in my 30s, you know, and I want to make sure that, you know, I take care of myself better than what I was doing even while I was in the military, because I was drinking very heavy. You know, I was drinking all the time and up and down 6th Ave and with everybody. And now I'm not doing that. So I'm even, you know, I say even when you're leaving the military and, you know, you can grab all the benefits you can, use everything you can, because I did. And honestly, I want to say that has been the best thing I have received so far. So even though I've been in firefights, I've seen people get blown the hell up, I've gotten blown up multiple times, I still have pulled out a positive reward out of this. And my positive reward is I can give advice to other veterans who need it. I'm still here physically, which God has blessed me with. And, you know, even, you know, I can talk to people about how I, you know, have my seizures, but it hasn't taken my life. So, you know, I got hurt, but I'm still here. And so I think God has want me to be blessed, because I could have stayed in Afghanistan, but God was like, no, you need to go home, bro. And, you know, I even tried to go back. So God was like, no, you gotta come back. So I see that as a sign of God saying, you need to, you know, you did your time with Uncle Sam, come back. So that's how I view it, you know.
Right on. I appreciate your time. That was an awesome interview.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end recording and I'm going to have you stay on and talk with you for a bit.
All right.